Welcome back, everyone. New YouTube video. Today, I want to talk about coaches in Serie A because 8 of the top 9 teams in the league could change the coach for 2025-26. Of course, starting from Napoli to AC Milan, the top 8 could change their coach for next season. The exception in the top 9 is Bologna because Italiano met Bologna directors this morning and they practically agreed to sign a contract extension until 2027. So one more season for Italiano at Bologna, and Italiano was one of those coaches among apparently the top Milan priorities to replace Sergio Conceição next season. So Italiano contract extension starts something different from for Milan and for the other clubs in Serie A. Um, the Rossoneri are one of the teams to watch. Clearly, Conceição's exit is not official yet, but it's going to be pretty likely. And Tare has started talks with Massimiliano Allegri, who was already one of the priority Milan targets even before Tare was appointed. But there was an interview from Tare from a few months ago where he said that the best Italian coaches are Allegri and Antonio Conte. Clearly, Antonio Conte is um, he's still on hold at Napoli. It's still not sure what he's going to be, whether he's going to go to Juventus or whether he will stay at Napoli. And there will be updates on this probably around the weekend, perhaps on Saturday already. Um, so Napoli have spoken to Allegri as well. But right now, of course, the priority is to keep Conte. So this gives Milan a little extra time to chat to Allegri. Calciomercato reported that Allegri has been offered a 3-year contract for 3.5 million per season. Allegri's request is slightly higher. Other sources reported that Napoli had offered a 2-year contract, 6 million per year. So slightly higher salary, but 1 year less in terms of contract length from for Napoli compared to Milan. He's the main man right now for Milan and Napoli, but the timing is very important because, of course, Napoli need to wait for Conte's decision, and they would be happy to keep Conte. But in the meantime, of course, they don't want Allegri to choose another destination and remain with no coach, which is frankly difficult to imagine because Allegri. He is glad that he was called by Napoli and Milan, but of course he will have to wait for Conte's decision as well. Tuttosport this morning reported that even Inter would be interested in Allegri, but in this case, Inzaghi's decision will come later on because, of course, he's involved in the Champions League final now on Saturday 31 against PSG. So he wants to wait for that game before uh, discussing his future and making a final decision. He confirmed an offer from Saudi Arabia and from some clubs in Europe earlier this week, Simone Inzaghi. So he seemed to be pretty safe at Inter, and it's still safe because Inter want to keep him. Clearly, if Inzaghi decides to go, it's his decision, and Inter would need to wait to look for a possible replacement. And Allegri would be in line for the job, but again, Allegri has already held talks with two Inter opponents who are Napoli and Milan. Third team ranked in Serie A this season was Atalanta. Atalanta, they're going to change the coach 100% because Gasperini is going and is probably going to Roma because he has had negotiation. He's talking to Roma right now, and he's the main candidate to replace um, Claudio Ranieri next season. Names for Atalanta: coaches who are kind of close to Gasperini's tactical ideas, or perhaps Thiago Motta, perhaps Igor Tudor. There are a few candidates that have been linked already, but what's clear and certain is that Gasperini will leave Atalanta after 9 years, and it's something that he had kind of said already, even if he said a few months ago that he would not extend his contract beyond 2026 and left the door open for leaving earlier before the end of his contract, which is something that is actually happening. Fourth place, Juventus. The main option is Conte. The problem with Juventus here is that Giuntoli's future is also uncertain, the Juventus chief football officer. Um, there will be changes in the Juventus control room because Damian Comolli, who was the Toulouse president, has resigned from his position, and it's very likely, very likely to be appointed as the new Juventus CEO. Giorgio Chiellini will have a different role, more close to the team and more involved in technical decisions as well, and in team management decisions. And it remains to be seen if Giuntoli will stay in charge of not or not. So again, here the timing thing returns because Juventus, if they want Conte, they have to move quickly because Conte has already spoken to Napoli. But if Juventus still don't know who will be in charge um, in terms of directors and executives next season, then it's more difficult to approach Conte. And still today, there is no Juventus offer in Conte's hands. So let's see how this will evolve. In meantime, Igor Tudor will surely go to the Club World Cup in 2025 now in June next month. And his contract on paper has been extended until 2026 because he qualified for the Champions League. And so he's technically under contract for one more season, but Juventus can terminate with this agreement with just by paying 1 million. One of the big news of the day in terms of coaches was the one reported by Sky Sport Italia, Palladino resigning from Fiorentina. Still not official yet. Everyone's waiting for Fiorentina's official statement, but it seems pretty much done with Palladino working out after just one season in Florence. Uh, I mean, the situation was already tense between Palladino and the Fiorentina fans in the last home game against Bologna. A couple of weeks ago, there were chants and banners against Palladino and Daniele Pradè, the Fiorentina director, with the ultras urging them to leave the club. So it's still a surprising decision because Fiorentina activated the clause to extend with Palladino until 2027. But clearly, Palladino has made a different decision now, and it seems highly likely to leave the club, mostly not because of the results or relationship with the team, but mostly because of the environment around Fiorentina, which is not particularly friendly from him at the moment. Lazio, another club that are likely to change coach, will probably part ways from Marco Baroni, and they've already contacted Maurizio Sarri for a possible return 1 year after he resigned, mostly due to personal reasons. The environment at Lazio has changed a lot compared to when Sarri resigned. He also didn't have a excellent relationship with part of the dressing room, but many of those players have changed. The Lazio score has changed as well, and so he will find a very different environment at Lazio, and this is why he may be happy to embrace the Lazio project and have a fresh start at the Stadio Olimpico after leaving practically a year ago because it was March 2024. Milan, again, the main option for them is Massimiliano Allegri, and as I said at the start of the video, the timing will be crucial for the Rossoneri. But right now, if you think about Juventus, Milan, and Napoli, everything depends on one man only, and this man is Antonio Conte, the fresh Serie A title winner. Because if he decides to leave Napoli, then of course Juventus have a clear path to go for Conte, and Napoli at that point, I think they would be favorite to land Massimiliano Allegri, leaving Milan, I would say, short of options, or at least short of top level options. If Conte stays, then Milan would have probably a clear path for Allegri, unless Simone Inzaghi resigns as an Inter coach. And at that point, maybe Juventus will. I mean, they already have a coach. They have Tudor, who is contracted to 2026, and it was a fresh appointment. So perhaps they will stay with Tudor. Perhaps they will chase a new coach. But Conte is their main option. So if he decides to stay, Juventus plan A is gone. So everything depends on Conte, really. There should be a new meeting around Saturday between him and De Laurentiis. Napoli, they're already moving fast in the transfer window, in the summer transfer window, because they're close to signing Kevin De Bruyne. Corriere dello Sport reported this morning that even Jonathan David is practically reached an agreement with Napoli, joining the club as a free agent, not confirmed by other sources, to be fair, but it's something that is emerging from Corriere dello Sport, and there were reports of good meetings between the two parties over the last few days. So surely De Laurentiis, it's something that I explained in a previous video, is doing all he can to convince Conte to stay, because clearly he didn't replace Kvaratskhelia in January, which was one of the reasons that really upset Conte. But I mean, it's not even June, and he practically has an agreement with Kevin De Bruyne, and is trying to sign at least Jonathan David. So he's showing that he really wants to improve the team and to have more quality and more depth for a team that will be playing in the Champions League next season and will have to defend the title properly, not like the last time when Napoli changed 3 coaches in one season after they won the title in 2023. So there's a lot going on. Right now, it's hard to predict whether Conte will stay or um, leave Napoli. Personally, I think Simone Inzaghi will leave Inter, whether he wins the Champions League or not. And at that point, you need to see who Inter will go for, and if Max Allegri, potentially one of the first option, would still be available. Um, Juventus, I would say Conte or Igor Tudor. I don't see any other option currently. Roma, I think Gasperini will go there. For Fiorentina, there aren't reports yet, but I would say Daniele De Rossi for Fiorentina, because Daniele Prade is an ex-Roma director. He knows Daniele De Rossi really well, and he's on very good terms with him. De Rossi even came to Florence a few months ago for Rossi's um, farewell match. You see the video in my video list as well, of De Rossi and the other players coming for Giuseppe Rossi's farewell game in Florence. And I do think that if Palladino's resignations are confirmed, then De Rossi will be going to Fiorentina. For Lazio, I think Sarri and Milan, it's right now, clearly, it's easy to say Allegri because they are in talks with Allegri. If there isn't um, an agreement with Allegri, or Allegri decides to go elsewhere, then probably uh, probably Thiago Motta. Probably Thiago Motta, I would say, would be a good name for Milan. Sarri, unfortunately, is not on good terms with Iglitare, so is not one of the names linked with Milan anymore because of their past at Lazio. And Atalanta, again, Thiago Motta is a coach that has emerged for Atalanta as well. And in that case, it would be a little bit more difficult to predict the Atalanta coach, but probably either Motta or Tudor would be two valuable options for the Bergamo side. But it's very hard to predict who will be in charge of the top Serie A clubs next season. And again, all the eyes will be on Antonio Conte, because whatever he decides, it's going to change massively the decisions from other Serie A clubs as well. So everyone's waiting for him, and will be waiting for updates as well. I will provide you the latest updates about Serie A coaches, transfers, Italy national team as well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel as usual. Thank you very much. We speak very, very soon.